Immigration has long been a contentious issue in American politics. But today's guest says immigrants keep coming to the United States, overcoming obstacles, working for better opportunities for themselves and their families, and all the while buying into the idea of America that binds us all together. He's legendary journalist Ray Suarez this week on Story in the Public Square. Hello and welcome to Story in the Public Square, where storytelling meets public affairs. I'm Jim Ludes from the Pell Center at Salve Regina University.
And I'm G. Wayne Miller, also with Salve's Pell Center.
And our guest this week is Ray Suarez, one of the great journalists of this era. He hosts the podcast on Shifting Ground, and his new book is We Are Home, Becoming American in the 21st Century. He joins us today from Washington, D.C. Ray, congratulations on the book, and thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me with you.
Well, you know, the book, I said, it's brilliant. For the audience at home, though, who maybe hasn't read it yet, do you want to give us just a quick overview?
It's basically the story of the modern era of American immigration. The rules changed significantly in 1965, and people started to come to this country from more places in the world, and it changed the country. It is changing the country. So there's a quick history of American immigration law, a look at some of the ways the modern era has changed American demographics, and then the deeply felt stories of the immigrants themselves, oral histories.
You know, the question that I kept asking myself as I read the book was, what makes somebody an American? Clearly you've given some thought to that.
Well, I would suggest that unlike a lot of countries in the world where there's a very strong consciousness of a shared national identity that comes from shared attachment to the land, shared blood, shared clan, shared heritage, the United States is radically different from those places. We have no origin story that is part of us all. So we, almost by default, pick an origin story, and you are a part owner of it, whether you arrived the day before yesterday or your ancestors have been here for 500 years. It's a remarkable thing, really, in the history of the world. Shared values, shared ideas, shared notions of freedom. If you sign into those, it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how you pray or whether you pray at all. It doesn't matter where your people come from. You can be a part of this thing. And that's the great American exception. It has been the great American exception. And we tinker with that at our peril. I guess that's one of the places I land at the end of the book.
So, Ray, what attracts people to the United States in 2024?
Sometimes it's nothing more complicated than the place where they are becoming increasingly difficult to live in, to prosper, to raise a family, to be safe from prosecution and persecution. So there's that part of it. There are talented, innovative, elbows out, aggressive people that know that the United States offers someone with their skills and talent opportunities that they wouldn't have at home or in a dozen other countries that they might aspire to move to. So it's a mix. It's a mix of opportunity, freedom, safety, the possibility of getting away from a place that just is not a good place for your family to be for the long haul. And having said that, I really have to stress, it is hard to leave the place that you know, the place where you come from, the place where people know you, the place where people love you, the place where you speak the language, the place where you fit in. To leave all of that, to voluntarily pull yourself out of context permanently is a hard thing. And we don't give people who start over in America nearly enough credit for doing a really tough thing.
So, Ray, that appeal, how does it differ from the appeal historically, or does it? Has this been a constant theme from the beginning of people coming to this country?
You know, that refuge has always been part of our story. Whether you were fleeing the revolutions of 1848 in Europe, whether you were fleeing the abortive revolution in Ireland in the 1790s, whether you were fleeing radical political change or persecution if you were a member of a religious minority or ethnic minority, those people have always been part of who comes to America. What's changed is the map. The United States specifically the United States specifically excluded people from a big patch of the planet. So really, when you talked about immigration for much of our early history, you really only meant people from Europe. You only really meant people, white people, as immigrants. Black people came as property, as chattels. They came in chains. They didn't come voluntarily. So they're a different story, very much a big part of our history as a country. But when you talk about immigrants, you really, until very late in this 250-year window, you're talking about white people. And that's one of the big changes in the modern era.